Welcome to this webinar about the Universal PFAS Restriction Proposal and the consultation that is taking place right now and until September. I'm very glad to present today Jenny Ivarsson from the Swedish Chemicals Agency, CHEMI. Jenny is one of the people that have been working with this restriction proposal for the last couple of years, together with people from the other member states that are also behind this proposal. And we are very happy to have you here today. We think this is a very important proposal when we look at the urgent situation we have with PFAS contamination today. And we think it's very important that people respond to the consultation and can help shape it so that it gets relevant and can work in a good way. But we also realize that it's quite tricky if you don't answer to public consultations every day to understand how to do this in a good way. So it's very nice to have you here to present, and there will also be quite some time today to post questions to you. So we hope that that you all who attend can get some clarification on how you can work with this and how you can move forward. And we will also send out the slides and the recording of the webinar afterwards. And we will also send out some written information about how to answer the consultation, like a small guide from our side. And I don't understand why it's so tricky for me to change slide. So the agenda today is that Jenny will talk about the proposal and about the consultation. Then we have quite some time for questions. And to post questions, you can use the Q&A function here in Zoom, and I will read the questions out loud later during this part. And in the end, I will just conclude by showing the different resources we have at ChemSec for substitution of PFAS and phasing out PFAS, identifying PFAS in your products and so forth. So you get a little bit summary of that. And as I said, you will also get the slides, the recording, and a written guide on how to answer the public consultation afterwards. But by that, I hand over to you, Jenny.
Yes, thank you, Anna, and thank you for arranging this meeting. And I think it is very important to improving the understanding of this ongoing consultation. And also, I want to thank all the attendants to taking the time to listen to this. So, and as Anna said, this proposal is a joint effort by 5 countries. It's Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and the Netherlands and Germany. And also we have had support throughout the process by ECHA. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, just a very short background. We have been working together for the past 3 years with this, and so we began in January 2020, and the focus has been on collecting all necessary information from industry. And this was done through 2 consultations. And so we submitted the proposal in mid-January, and the report was then published in the beginning of February on the ECHA website. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so if you look in the restriction report, this is the chemical definition. What do we mean with the PFAS? So, and this is in line with the OECD definition from 2021, and it includes then over 10,000 substances. And so you can push it forward. You can take it, and also the next one, I think. And the next, good. And as you see here, it's very many different substances, and they are used in many different applications. And yeah, you can take the next one. And also, we have specifically out of the scope here are some PFAS. It's only a handful with PFAS that degrade completely in the environment, so therefore they are excluded from the scope. And this is when the CF3 group is in connection directly with an oxygen or nitrogen atom. You can see And the next, and you can push it forward once more, where you see some examples of those substances, but they are very few and they are more connected with the plant protection products, I would say. Yeah, next slide. So then if we go into the proposed restriction, we propose some different limit values, and this ppb is then the parts per billion, and ppm here is short for parts per million. So we propose 3 different concentration limits. The first two, the 25 and the 250 ppb, refer to measurements of PFAS with an available analytical method that detects and specific substances. But however, those methods are only available for numbers of specific PFAS. If other PFAS are present, for example, fluoropolymers, you need another method, and therefore we also propose this 50 ppm based on this analysis of the total fluorine content. Yeah, next slide, please. And in the proposal, we describe in details 2 restriction options, and the restriction option 1 is a full ban of all uses with a transitional period of 18 months. And next slide, please. And the restriction option 2 is a ban with use-specific derogations, and here we have the same transitional period of 18 months as the previous option, but here we have certain derogations, either of 5 years or 12 years, and those are time limited derogations. It should say, yeah, time limited derogations. It should be, and they are but we have then time unlimited derogations for specifically 5 different uses, and it's active substances in biocidal products, plant protection products, and pharmaceuticals. And also I've listed the other 2, very, as you can see, they are very specific derogations. And in addition, we propose a mandatory reporting requirement for manufacturers and importers of active substances, uses of fluorinated gases, and uses with a 12-year derogation period. And information should be reported on the uses, identity of and quantity of PFAS placed on the market. And we propose that for active substances, we propose this reporting every 2 years, and for the other derogations, every year. And the manufacturers, importers, and downstream users should also have a management plan in relation to fluoropolymers and perfluoropolyethers when they make use of the derogations. And such a plan should include, for example, identity of substances, justification and conditions of use, as well as, for example, safe disposal. Yes, next slide, please. And here you can see kind of a timeline. We have the entry into force. After 18 months, we have this ban for uses without the derogation, and that is for the majority part of the uses. And then we have this 5 year, and that 5 years plus 18 months, that means it's 6.5 years. We have this for 11, of which 3 are marked with under reconsideration, and then we have this 12 years plus 18 months. We have 33 proposed derogations. And then, as I mentioned at the previous slide, we have a time unlimited derogation for the 5 derogations. Yeah, next slide, please. And here are some examples for the conditions for the proposed derogations. This is for fluoropolymers and perfluoropolyethers. We have food contact materials for industrial food and feed production. We propose a 5-year derogation. And the basis for a 5-year derogation is that there are sufficient, strong evidence that alternatives are under development, but they are not really ready at the entry into force. And also non-alternatives are not available in enough quantities. That could be another reason. And on the right side here, we say one example is medical devices such as pacemakers. And for those, we have strong evidence that alternatives have not yet been identified so far, or you need more like quality approval and legal certifications of alternatives. Yeah, next slide, please. So then this was kind of an overview of the content of the restriction proposal. So now the next step is this, as Anna mentioned, this public consultation that is ongoing until the 25th of September. And parallel to this, ECHA, there is an opinion making at ECHA in their committees, the Committee for Risk Assessment Committee and the for the Socioeconomic Analysis, the RAC and SEAC. And after this, after this first public consultation, there will also be a consultation period on the draft opinion of SEAC. And after that, the background document or the proposal and the opinions of RAC and SEAC will be sent to the Commission, and the Commission then draft a amendment in the Annex 17 in REACH, and then it will be discussed and voted by the member states in the REACH committee. So this, when will this be? It's difficult to say, but maybe in 2025 and 26, something like that. So next slide, please. So now we just go into a little bit more how to reply in the public consultation. And here you can see a link to the where you can submit your comments, and you can next. So here, and if you click on that link, you will get to this. I don't know if you can see that good here, but here is what you will find on the ECHA web page. And the first, you have a lot of attachment there, and this is a different part of the restriction report. So next slide, please. So yeah, and this is what it looks like. We have this. It can be, this is totally like over 2,000 pages, but it is not that difficult if you kind of understand what's behind all these annexes. You can, and I will anyway recommend you to first start with this Annex 15 report. This is a kind of a summary. It's of the proposed restriction. You can see on the pages of, it's a table there, and pages 4 to 8, with the scope and a list of all the derogations. And then you have the Annex A, which focus on the uses. We go to Annex B, we have the exposure chapter. And Annex C, justification for action on a union-wide basis, the argument for why this is needed on the EU level. And the, Annex D is the baseline, is kind of what we have at the moment. And Annex E is the impact assessment. Annex F with the assumption, uncertainty analysis, and the sensitivity analysis. And Annex G is the stakeholder information. And I would say here is that maybe of most interest here is, Annex, except for Annex 50, Annex 15 report, the summary report is Annex A, B, and E. I would say the Annex E with the impact assessment, I think, will be of interest. Yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, and if you go back there, you can also see on the side here a link to, it says give comments. So I've circled that. The next slide then. So I would say that changes will be made based on the information that are submitted to the public consultation, and substantiated scientific evidence is the key here. I would just want to emphasize that. And with substantiated, what we mean there is that you need to provide supporting evidence that justifies the information and arguments you are putting forward. If you, for example, provide information on cost or emissions for your sectors, make sure to present them in a way that the committees, the RAC and SEAC, can assess the conclusions. For example, you need to explain assumptions that you take and calculations made. And joint submissions are strongly encouraged. When you submit information together, for example, through an association or on behalf of a sector, you can more easily justify how your information applies to the entire sector use. And this again makes it easier for ECHA's committees to take your information into account. And this also implies within an organization. It is possible for, different units within different units within the same company to make individual submissions, but it is better to submit it together if that is possible. And also the last thing here, maybe the previous one again, or yeah, I would just say that it's I just want to also say this with the position papers, and that is something that is not very helpful, or only statements there. So that is not that useful for us or for the committees. Yeah, next slide, please then. Yeah. So when you click on that give comments, you will have that different sections in the web format, and it is possible to provide both general comments and answer to specific questions in the web form. We have, for example, proposed derogations, information on tonnages and emissions are requested, and there are PFAS use that have not been covered in detail in the report. So there is a request on information on missing uses, for example, when it comes also to alternatives. And in the proposal, there is a list of potential derogation marked for reconsideration, and to strengthen the justifications for derogation for these uses, we need additional specific information on alternatives and socioeconomic impacts. And comments can be only submitted as attachments. However, it is good if you can provide short summaries of the type of information in the attachments in the relevant text boxes in the web form. And this helps to process the comments. And you have the option to submit confidential information, and this is in a specific section in the web form. And confidential information will only be used by ECHA and the committees, the member states, of course, authorities, and the Commission. And this information will not be published on ECHA's webpage. So that was what I had.
So thank you very much for that, Jenny. That was a really good overview, and we have got quite some questions already. Very many are about the proposal rather than the consultation. Mm-hmm. But you can keep posting questions. I would just like to ask you, when we start, do you know if there have been many responses to the consultation already?
Yes, there have been. I don't have the exact number. I just got like an hour ago a new update, so we get updates. So yeah,
And do
and
you,
so we are now discussing with ECHA how we in the best way are going to handle these, because we have to be grouping them somehow, to be kind of, to be practical about this. It's so.
yes, because you expect quite a lot of comment, I suppose.
Yes.
Yes. So one question we got is, what about the derogations? And when you say ban, does it mean that when the derogation period is over, and that there is no longer an opportunity to use the substance anymore? Is that a complete ban after that?
Yes, that's correct. That is our proposal. We propose that. So this is kind of a ban, but it just takes a longer time, than the restriction option 1. When we have this ban after 18 months, we have kind of, we also have a ban, but it just takes longer time for when it comes to this, our proposal, except for those time unlimited derogations.
So there is no opportunity to apply for an extended derogation or something like that?
No, I mean, this is a restriction process in REACH, and so we don't have this kind of authorization process or something like that. No, so that is correct, that that we propose a ban after these either 5 years, 6.5 years, or this 13.5 years.
Okay. We have received quite a lot of questions about the limit values. One question is if this limit value has been set to guarantee the drinking water limit values, if there is a relation there.
No, there is no relation there, I would say. That is kind of a different, that is something you measure in the environment, and but what I can say, that it is important that we get this restriction, because that will help, since there are kind of quite strict limit values in the drinking water directive. So this will help to enforce that, I guess. But no, we haven't really looked at that. But I guess you can recognize this 25 ppb for other PFAS, right? For the PFOA, for example, the C9 to C14 PFCAs. What is new here is that we have this sum of PFAS and this 50 ppm based on the total fluorine.
Yeah, there's also a question about what is included in the sum of PFAS, or what does that mean?
Yeah, we have not a list of that. This should be like a specific number of PFAS. We know that different labs have, can maybe have like 11 PFAS or 21 PFAS. So we have not, proposed that we should have a list of certain PFAS or a number of PFAS. We only have like this, a sum of PFAS.
Okay.
But also, again, for all these questions, if there are kind of comments on this, I encourage you to put this forward in the public consultation. So yeah.
Yeah, because there are also questions about if there are test methods to measure these limit values that you have proposed. And I know there is one annex with that. Do you have something more to say there?
Yeah, I would say that we have identified analytical methods. I think they are pretty good for this 25 and 250 ppb. We know that there needs to be development or improvement for this total fluorine content. There are methods, but to make them more reliable, I would say. But there are work going on here. So when this is in place, I would say that we should have analytical method to be able to enforce this. Yeah.
And you mean that when the restriction proposal is getting into force, there will be an analytical method to measure this? There's also a comment that the limit values are high. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Okay. This is kind of what our conclusion is, that this is kind of, but because what we want to avoid is intentionally added PFAS. So with this, we believe that contamination, might, be under these detection values, but
Okay.
yeah.
Then there are also, there was a question about if you can submit comments as a company that have replaced PFAS already, if that is interesting, and how you would submit such a comment to the consultation.
Yes, that is very much interesting information. Yeah, I would suggest that you take a look at this web format there, and you can also see on these specific questions if you have kind of an alternatives for example, for this derogation under reconsideration, because absolutely alternatives, that is one area that we are looking for more information.
Okay. Yeah, the question was at what stage of the process we can submit details about the benefits of phasing out PFAS.
Yeah, that would be now, I would say. Yeah.
That would be now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there is one section where you can attach, add attachment on on a general level, and then there are those specific questions.
Then there are quite some questions, what I expected also about polymers, if they are included in the restriction and why.
Now I didn't go into the background, the argument, the basis of our why we see the need for this kind of broad PFAS restriction. But the basis is this extremely persistence that all PFAS, that is the property of all PFAS. And that when it comes to fluoropolymers, also that we are looking of the whole life cycles. For example, fluoropolymers, there might not be a problem during the use phase, but we see from the production and the waste stage. So I would say this very high persistency, that is also true for the fluoropolymers. So.
And there is a question about recycled materials and how the restriction applies to that. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, actually, that is one thing that we are also asking for in the public consultation. So we have the same requirements for new materials and recycled materials. They should have the same limit values. There is no difference there.
So it goes. There's another question here that if a PFAS substance is present in a cosmetic product as an impurity, is there a difference between impurities and intentionally added PFASs, or the limit values applies to both?
Yeah, limit values applies to both.
Yeah, and that's also the case in recycling, probably, that it's mainly impurities. Okay. What would be your guess that the ban proposal for 5 and 12 years would hold, comparing to be extended, for example, 10 and 20 years? I assume if the final proposal will end up at these times, or you expect them to be longer in the end?
Yeah, that is a very good point, that this is a proposal. So now this is being evaluated by the RAC and SEAC, the ECHA committees. So I can't really say today what it will look like in the end. But and now it's also important to emphasize that the proposal is it's on ECHA now and the committees. So this is not really a question for me, I guess.
Okay. And there is a question if there is a socioeconomic impact analysis that is available to see what consideration and assumptions have been made.
Yeah, I would say to take a first look then in the Annex E on the slides I showed you on the ECHA webpage. There's a impact assessment we have done for all of these uses. very, very thoroughly, and it's been based on the 2 consultations. So we have been, and the basis for this is all information we have gathered from industry. So.
And then there is a question about pesticides, and that PFAS is also used with pesticide, and why is that not part of the restriction proposal?
Yeah, and the reason is that they have their own legislations. So we don't say that PFAS couldn't be, no problem. We know that when they are used in pesticides, they are, released and directly into the environment. But this should not be handled within REACH. We have this, plant protection product regulations, for example, and also for the biocides and also for pharmaceuticals. So that is why we exclude them.
Happen to know if there is anything discussed there already related to this?
No, no, not really, I would say. But I know that we have, kind of, no, I can't really say, since that's not my area. No.
Yeah. After ECHA submits its recommendation to the European Commission, how much liberty does the Commission have to amend the restriction proposal?
Well, they have that freedom, I would say, because we know that other issues come in there, with the politics and so on, and so I can't really say here, but things can happen, yes, at the Commission. Yeah.
I think we have quite a few attendees from the US, and there are some questions if the threshold values and the proposal is aligned somehow with existing levels in different US regulations. Have you looked into that when discussing the proposal?
I can't really answer that, no. What I know is more of these with the POP regulations, and I know that I don't think that the US has implemented the Stockholm Convention, but the Stockholm Convention is implemented in EU through the POPs regulation, and so that is mainly that, and the other PFAS in REACH, I would say, Annex 17. But I can't really answer if we have looked into the specifically in the US. No.
And this is a question, I don't know if you can answer this one, but it is about PFAS being present in all types of materials used for packaging. Or is there any material where we definitely cannot have PFAS?
What do you mean? That we can manage without, or
where there is no PFAS, so that you can sort of be certain to use instead?
That's a tricky thing with PFAS. You can't really say with certain on anything, I would say. But you can kind of look at the properties, with these packaging, when you see the request for, the water repellents and the grease repellents. But we have, with other kind of non-stick materials also, yeah. So, and that was not the answer. That was kind of only saying where you can find PFAS. But yeah, it's it is difficult, I would say, to really know for certain.
Yeah, I will say a little bit later about our PFAS guide, where we have tried to list potential uses of PFAS as a first step to understand if you maybe should pose questions to your suppliers and try to find out if there are PFAS in your products. There are some questions about if if there is a specific derogation for PFAS in industrial settings, and specifically in harsh industrial environments, or if this was overlooked.
We have some derogation when it comes to harsh. I know all harsh conditions, and I know also the definition of harsh conditions. I would suggest to take a look at the specific, because I can't really, I don't have all the specific. The derogation, what we have tried to do is to make them very use specific. So that is, and so have a look there, and that is also for all of you, that you should really take a look at all the derogations and see if you find your sector there.
Yeah, there was also a question about the difference between the proposed derogations and the derogations that are in these brackets that are sort of weaker proposals, or how would you define the difference between them, and how does it differ in the kind of information you would like to see in the consultation?
Yeah, and there is, because for the proposed derogations, we think we have enough information to propose that this, you need a derogation either 5 years or 12 years. But when those marked for reconsideration, there we need more, information to propose a derogation. I mean, so if we don't receive enough information for those, we will simply remove them. So that is why.
This is the opportunity. So
yeah.
Can you also support information to support the proposed derogations, like saying that you have alternatives and so forth?
That would be very good, because, absolutely, that is equally important, I would say. Yeah.
And then there is a question about the essential use concept that has earlier been proposed to be part of the PFAS restriction proposal, but how is it now? Is essential use part of this restriction proposal, or?
No, we haven't used this. I know in the beginning, because also there have been work going on to, set up criteria for this essential use concept. But since we don't have anything on that, we are simply doing it as we always do in this restriction proposal. We have the socioeconomical part with this proportionality, with this risk benefit arguments here. So
And there was also a question, or more of a comment, saying that many actors in the supply chain are probably not aware that this is happening. So do you know if there are any awareness raising activities from ECHA or from you member states to increase the knowledge that this is happening and that companies need to be aware?
Oh yeah, but what we have done, I mean, I know that, ECHA, they have reached out to the registrants, for example, but I know that, as you say, that this is the supply chains along, and also the downstream users, so it can be difficult to know if you have, PFAS in your products, but there is a kind of a general comment there that you should always, ask your supplier, and I don't know what is planned here, but I mean, I know that there are different, different actors. They try to, raise the awareness here. For example, I mean, ChemSec is doing that, and from the authority side, for example, at the Swedish Chemicals Agency, we have had, webinars trying to reach out to different companies, and I know that there's the same going on in the other countries also. And also we have had, ECHA have had webinars. We had a webinar on the 5th of April, and you can at the ECHA webpage, it's through YouTube, you can listen there, us explaining the proposal, and ECHA also explaining the process. And I should also say that ECHA, they have published a Q&A from that webinar that is good to take a look at, with a lot of answers.
There's a question about when that should be published, but then it's already available.
Yeah, at least because there are two parts. It's questions related to the process and the questions related to the proposal. At least the questions related to the process, that is available, and that can be a good thing to take a look at before you answer your or you submit comments.
Here is a question. I'm interested in the background for the selection of sectors for specific derogations. For example, cemetery industry has versus aerospace use would not have any derogations. But there are also plenty of uses that are not reflected in the proposals. Why?
And that is also, we believe that we have covered most uses, but there are uses that we have missed, or I mean, since this is used everywhere, And that is why we have specific questions in the web format regarding missing uses. So that is really much, I mean, I would really encourage you to submit information there if you have discovered any. I mean, if you have a miss in your organization there.
And there is also a question about potential new uses of PFAS. How would the restriction cover those?
Yeah, that will be covered. We cover all, I mean, all new uses. And so if you don't have a derogation, it will be a ban, and that is for the uses today and the uses tomorrow and in the future. And the same goes for the PFAS covered, the substances covered. That is why we have this OECD definition that we can cover, or also PFAS substances that are not, even invented today. So,
yeah. And there is a question if there is a derogation for monomers used to produce polymers.
If the polymer, if they are as for a derogation for that, then yeah, that will be also a derogation for the monomers to be able to produce that polymer.
Here's a question. Persistency of PFAS is also important criterion when they are used, for example, as implantable medical devices. So a substitute must be persistent as well. And obviously there is no derogation for such uses. And how can this be resolved?
Yeah, I know that this is an issue because all this technical properties that we want, that there should be persistence in the use, it becomes a problem in the environment. But the alternatives, and if we have not proposed a derogation, we see that there is today an alternatives that are better than PFAS. But of course, we can't say, I mean, new information might come up that.
Oh, seems we lost Jenny, or something strange here. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry about that. We'll see if she returns. But I can otherwise move on as planned. It was already time to move on to the next part of the webinar. We'll see if she returns, as I said, and otherwise there will be this Q&A from Eka, and hopefully you will get some responses there, and also in the information we share about the consultation. Now she's back. Hey, we lost you.
Hi, can you? I think I was thrown out of the meeting.
Yeah, you were zoomed out of the meeting. Well, now you're back. I'm glad for that.
Okay. I was like, what happened? Okay.
Yes. But there is just a little bit time left for the questions. There was a question about if the restriction proposal will be translated to other languages.
No, I don't think Eka has planned to translate it. No.
And there is a question again about the timeline and the RAC-SEAC assessments, but that is, how flexible is that, or how can we assume that they are on time?
Yeah, I mean, there is, I think we can expect that it will take additional meetings for the discussion, since this is such a huge proposal. So I can't, that is why also I didn't put any dates here where this, when RAC and SEAC should be finished, and when the proposal or when their opinion is going to be sent to the Commission. And that is why also we can't really say when we expect this ban to enter into force, or this restriction enter into force. So it's difficult to say, but what we can expect is that it will take longer time than normally, I would say. Yeah.
And there will also be an opportunity to comment on those opinions, right?
Yes, on the SEAC opinion, yeah, on their draft opinion. So that will be a 60-day consultation on the SEAC draft opinion after this, after this September, after the consultation on the restriction report. There will be a 60-day consultation on the SEAC draft opinion.
Would you say it's better to post your question or your comments now than then, or is it a difference?
Well, the comments now, they are on the proposal. The comments on the SEAC, the next consultation is on the SEAC draft opinion. So yeah, so if you have comments on the proposal, I would suggest you to submit them before the 25th of September.
Yeah. This is a question. Is it better to collate our entire response and send once, or build up over time to allow for an earlier input?
I would say it's, I mean, all comments that are submitted, we will, take into, or ECHA will take into consideration, and we will, they will reply. The committees and the member states, they will reply. But I would say that it is better if you could kind of gather the information. Also, as I described, it's better to, if you are in one organization, to have, the comments from the whole organization and submitted at one time there, I would say.
Yeah. As time is running up, I'm thinking one final question that is, we touched upon it, but has ECHA considered including a review clause in the proposal for the time-limited derogation, allowing the Commission to review the derogation if no alternatives has been found when the transition time is reaching the end?
Well, the discussions has just started in the RAC and SEAC, so I would say it's too early to, not yet, but we are in the beginning of this process in RAC and SEAC. So
yeah. Okay, thank you. There are coming in tons of questions, but we are running out of time, so I will have to thank you for those replies so far. You have been very good to answer high and low questions of different kinds. I see it's tricky. I will talk just a little bit before we end about what we do at ChemSec that is related to PFAS that might be helpful for the people listening. So we work quite a lot with PFAS in different ways at ChemSec, and one way to find out what we do and also find different news related to PFAS is to go to our website, which is actually new and updated, and quite a lot of our news articles and similar now is about PFAS. And if you want to assure to stay on top of that, you can you can sign up for our newsletters to be sure that you know everything that's happening. And we have also had a number of webinars related to PFAS and the restriction proposal and the consultation as now, and all of these are recorded and also available on our website. So what I mentioned very briefly before was that we published, or we launched a PFAS guide, that we call it, earlier this year in February, and it was part of a Horizon funded project. And the aim of the PFAS guide is to fill this gap that we have realized that for many companies and stakeholders, it's difficult to even understand if you may have PFAS in your products and processes, because PFAS is used in so many different applications, and it goes far beyond rain jackets and frying pans, which is what you normally think contains PFAS. So this guide has been set up to trying to fill that gap, so that you know if you may have PFAS, and you know when you should ask your suppliers about more information. And the PFAS guide is set up with two different parts. So one part with information, where you can read text to try to understand how PFAS is typically used, so you know where to suspect that there may be PFAS. Some guidance about how to communicate about this in your supply chain, some guidance about different analytical methods available, also general information about substitution and how you can think about substitution, and links to resources. We have also linked all reports that we have found about PFAS uses in different sectors, PFAS substitution in different sectors. And here we have also uploaded a report from ourselves about PFAS in electronics, for example, but you find also information about other sectors that others have done. And this PFAS guide also has a database part where we have incorporated all the information that we have found about PFAS uses. So you can search for a sector, a material, or a product to understand if there may be PFAS in that product. So you know where to start searching and where to start asking. So this is really, the guide is really about the first step in substitution, which is just to identify your hotspots or where you need to start the substitution work. And this is also something that we want to be a living resource. So if you find, if you have additional uses or additional information, you're very, very welcome to submit that so that we can keep this up to date and helpful for as many as possible. Then we also have our SIN list, our most well-known and used tool. And here we added PFAS in February. And as you know, this is a huge group of chemicals. It has been set up to be several millions of cost numbers, but we have tried to limit this to the ones that are registered for use import production in the EU and the US. So this is the subset of the PFAS universe that would be the most likely ones to be found in products in the European Union. So hopefully that can also be helpful to have a look there. And what we also have is that we have the PFAS movement, and this is a collaboration or with a lot of different companies that have signed up or that sort of support the universal PFAS ban, and also acknowledge that to work in their own businesses to phase out PFAS if they have not already. And this is also to show that there are many also corporate actors that are very interested and that would be helped if there was a universal PFAS ban, so that they would be free from this in their products, basically. And today we have over 100 companies that are members of the PFAS movement, and you're still welcome to join this if you want. You will get some extra information and some updates about PFAS and PFAS substitution and so forth. So it's quite a nice group to join, actually, if you would be interested. And if you want to know more about what we are doing, you're very welcome to visit our website, as I said, but we are also quite active on social media. So if you follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you will also get updates about webinars, news, tools, and all the different things that we are doing. So thank you very much for joining today. Hope to see you again. I hope you got some responses, at least, of the many questions that were posed. We will prepare a recording of this webinar, the slides, and also this written guide with more information on how to answer the public consultation, for example, with all the different links to all the different annexes and so forth. And that will be sent out probably on Friday or early next week. And if you're signed up, you will get this in your email. So you can look out for that. And by that, I wanted to again thank Jenny very much for your time and your expertise. It was very valuable. It's a tricky issue, and you know this very well. So we're very thankful for having you here today.
Well, thank you.
So by that, I say bye-bye, and hope to see you soon again.